Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk with Tamara. On today's show, I will be speaking with Joanne Franks. She's the mother of Eric Franks. Eric lived in Saginaw, Michigan at the time of his disappearance, which was March 21st of 2011. Joanne brought her sister, Debra Tuckville, am I right, with her. They traveled all the way from Memphis, from Toledo, Ohio, to speak about Eric's missing case. Thanks for being here.
She actually came from North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
North Carolina. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
How are you all doing today?
Okay. This is always hard, you know, but we're so thankful to you for doing something to help us find answers.
Cases like this, they're my passion. They are. I really want my shows to revolve around cases like this and cold cases, because I just don't think that, I think out there when it's not hot anymore, they don't want to give them the coverage, and families still love their children when it's not hot on TV anymore. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's how I feel about it. So tell me a little bit about Eric.
Well, he was adopted when he was 5 weeks old.
Mm-hmm.
Really cute, precious little baby. And was just a perfectly normal, happy little boy. And he would fit right in with our extended family, and later I had a little girl. But I used to say to people, one of my kids is adopted. I don't remember which one. And then my daughter one day said, well, Mom, you don't remember having me? And I said, so I quit saying that. But I love them the same. And it wouldn't matter if I gave birth to him or not. You know, I love him the same.
Yours.
Yes.
What do you remember about him?
I remember I was young when he was adopted, but I remember him being adopted. I remember feeding him his baby bottle. He couldn't get it fast enough, so he'd try to stop breathing, scare me to death, and I'd lay him down screaming for my sister, come get him, come get him. But he had a good sense of humor. And as he became a teenager, he was kind of artsy, liked, unique. And fun. He was fun. All the kids hanging around. My kids were younger than a lot of their cousins, so they would carry them around and stuff like that. But they all got along really well and had a good time together. He was just a sweet boy.
Yeah.
One of his friends recently told me, she said she got reconnected on Facebook with him. She said he was a cool kid in school.
I was looking at some of his pictures. He looked like the type that's just really laid back, because I'm pretty laid back and quiet myself. Just look real laid back. So tell me, how long has Eric been missing?
It was 3 years in March. It depends on which story that you go by that the last person to see him said. But the last time that I talked to him was March 10th, 2012. And none of his friends have 2011, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And none of his friends have heard from him since then either, and no postings on Facebook or anything. There were I got a few emails after that, and I didn't think that much about, I thought they were from him. Now I'm questioning that as well as his friends are. But the last time I talked to him on the phone was March 10th, 2011.
March 10th, 2011, and he seemed okay.
Oh yeah. He was fine. He told me because he was staying in a motel, Miller's Motel, in Bridgeport.
And he was no longer living in Ohio.
No.
By this time.
Well, he left Ohio October the 25th, 2010, and went up to Saginaw to meet a daughter he found out he had, and he was up there in that motel about 5 months when he disappeared.
Okay, about 5 months. Okay, and you said he was staying in Saginaw. Okay, how did he end up there?
Well, he was trying to reconnect with a lot of friends on Facebook, like high school and all, when he moved to Ohio from Mississippi. And he got in touch with a lot of high school friends, started a Facebook page that they were on, and then an old girlfriend that was from Saginaw but had met my son when they were in Nashville, Tennessee. He got in touch with her. Deborah can tell you the story about how they got in touch better. I mean, I know it, but she actually talked to the man who put my son in touch with his former girlfriend.
Okay.
he had searched for the old girlfriend, could not find her on Facebook anywhere. Finding out later, she had used some alias names, some made-up names, fiction names, kind of crazy names, for her Facebook pages. And so for that reason, he couldn't find her. He recalled the man that came and picked her up from Nashville, Tennessee when they were young and took her back to Michigan. So he found him on the internet and sent him a message and told him, do you remember I used to be her boyfriend and I'm looking for her. Can you help me find her? Can't find her. And he was married to her now, this man was, and put Eric in touch with her. And they began talking on Facebook. That's how it started. And then she began to insinuate, she put her children's birth dates and stuff on her Facebook page as she was talking to him, and they were friends, and she kept insinuating, and finally she told him, yes, we have a daughter. I was 2.5 months pregnant when I left. I never told you. So 15 years later, she tells him he has a daughter. So now he's infatuated, and he ends up in Michigan to meet this daughter and to possibly rekindle a relationship with this old girlfriend. So,
at what point did you decide to report Eric missing?
Well, I was talking to him pretty frequently during those early months after he left. He was emailing me pictures of his daughter, and a few times he mailed quite a few pictures, and he would talk to me about her on the phone. And he said, the last time I actually talked to him on the phone, he said, don't mail me anything else to the motel, because I'd done that at Christmas and everything. He said, I'm moving out. I'm going to get a house and a job and a post office box. And so when the phone call stopped, I didn't really get worried about him for maybe 3 or 4 months, because he said, I'm moving to a place where there's very little reception. He said it's a rural area, and he posted something on Facebook about that. And so I thought, okay, he's getting to know his daughter. And so I was leaving voicemails, and then I would get an email back, answer to my questions. Now, my sisters and I went on a vacation. What month was it? Was it April? Well, somewhere in there. And I was telling them, I'm worried about Eric, because I'm leaving voicemails, I'm getting emails back, but he hadn't been calling me. But I thought, he's a grown man, he's getting to know his daughter. He's probably fine. He said he was moving to the country. They were going to get a satellite put in, a dish. So I wasn't really worried for a few months. And then when the emails stopped, that's when I got really worried and went to the police. Went to the police in Archville, my daughter and I did, and reported him missing. I got one more email the day, it was November 22nd of 2011. I don't think it was from him at all. It came from a Burger King in Clio, Michigan, which is right outside of Saginaw. And it didn't sound like him or anything, and I hadn't heard from him in a few months. But it came the day after we had gone to the police. We had told a friend of Eric's on Facebook. She posted it on a secret page where only 8 people could see it. And the next day I get the email.
Okay, so the day after you reported him missing to the police, the email conveniently.
Right.
Okay.
And I was at my daughter's, and my son-in-law was checking my email at his work, and he called my daughter and said, tell your mom, she just got an email from Eric. He said, I don't think it's him. And so we pulled it up, and I immediately answered back, and he gave me a phone number. Well, he said, what he said was something like, I'm back on my feet, I got a roof over my head, here's the phone number, call me. It was his phone never left Saginaw, according to the police. This phone number was never set up. I researched it, family members did, the police did. It was bought and never set up to be used. And I sent an email back and I said, son, I'm not going to have the police stop looking for you until I hear your voice. So I never heard anything since, and nothing, no more emails.
So have the police been helpful, do you feel, in the case? in his missing persons case?
Okay, in all fairness,
Mhm.
they have done some things.
Mm-hmm.
No, I have not been happy with the way they've treated the case. During that first year after we reported missing, we were told repeatedly, do not put up any missing posters.
Mm-hmm.
Do not get on TV about him being missing. We were even told, my son-in-law had emailed the police and said, Joanne's worried that, if we're not coming up there, y'all are looking into things, maybe we need to be up there. And they said, no, you don't need to come up here. And I never had a family member missing, so I listened to the police, what they said. Now, afterwards, I felt honestly a little stupid because I thought, isn't that the first thing you do is put up missing posters? Isn't it the first thing you do is get on TV and say, my loved one's missing, and this is the last time I talked to them? But we were told for that whole first year not to do that.
Okay. The young lady that his daughter's mom, that he went to Saginaw to see in the first place, has she been helpful?
No.
Not at all.
Not at
Okay.
all. The police did talk to her. They said the first time they talked to her, they just said things like, where do you live, how you doing, that kind of thing. And they said they talked to her for 3 hours because she and her husband and family and extended family moved to Florida a few months after, shortly after we reported him missing. They said they interviewed her for 3 hours, and then we could put up missing posters after that. But, they said, now you can. I said, you wasted precious time. He's been missing close to a year at that point.
So
no,
they interviewed her close to a year after he was missing?
yeah, let's see.
They interviewed her, what they called just a formal interview. How are you? What's your name?
Yeah.
I need your name for the records. Your husband's name for the records, where you live for the records, that sort of thing. And then they waited a few months later, and they interviewed her again. They said for 3 hours. And they told us, the reasoning they told us, we did not need to come to Michigan. It was turned over, he was reported missing in Ohio, at the police department in Ohio, missing from Michigan. Ohio then sent the report to Bridgeport, which is where the motel is. It's the township where the Miller's Motel is. They had it just for a short few days, knew he was not at Miller's Motel anymore, and the people that were last to see him, the young lady that was last to see him, the former girlfriend, she actually lived in Buena Vista Township, so they turned it over to Buena Vista. When we spoke to the acting chief of police at the time in Buena Vista, he told us we did not need to come there. They would take care of everything. They had suspicions of some things, and that they did not want posters put up. They did not want it put on television because they were afraid the people they were suspicious of would lawyer up, was the actual words we were given. Then about a year later, when we insisted we were coming, we were going to do a television interview, and that we would like for these people's names to be put out there. We would like something done on the case more than what was being done because nothing was being taken care of. The chief of police then went on TV and did a short interview himself on TV. So when we got there, we went to the police station to do our interview in front of the police station. They called outside and told the newscaster that was doing the interview that they were not happy with the fact it was being done in their parking lot, and they did not want to come outside. They refused to be interviewed at the time with us. I drove 12 hours. My other sister drove 14 hours and picked up Eric's mom from her house and went on to Saginaw, and he refused to meet with us. We had a prearranged meeting with the prosecutor to talk the case over. He refused to come and meet with us, said he was too busy, and sent one of his partners who knew very little about the case. So no, we're not happy.
Yeah, we had the prosecutor set up the meeting with the lead detective, and we were expecting to meet him. My son-in-law had emailed. At first, my son-in-law was more in touch with. I was by phone, he was by email, and he emailed the lead detective in Buena Vista and said, "We want to come meet with you. We're going to do a TV interview." He said, "I'm going on vacation." And so my son-in-law emailed him back, said, "Well, then can we meet with your partner?" He said, "No, he's doing road patrol." He said, "Okay, then can we meet with him?" He emailed him back, "Can we meet with whoever you're fixing to turn it over to?" Because they were kind of done. They kind of cut us off. And we never heard back. So we got the prosecutor at the time. He was not reelected, but the prosecutor that was there at the time, he set up the meeting. And when we went into the meeting, and they met with the three of us for about 3 hours, but the detective's partner said when he first came in, he said, I don't know much about this case, I'll tell you that up front. And it was my understanding that he and his partner had both done the interviewing. But he didn't bring any paperwork with him, no file, nothing. And they met with us for 3 hours. We showed him some pictures we had taken. And he did say to us, ladies, the legwork you have done may help solve this case. He did say that.
Well, it wasn't long after that we were very frustrated with it, and we asked that it be turned over to the sheriff's department rather than the police department there handling it, because
Well,
we felt.
I'm saying, actually, my daughter did that, and she actually asked, could we wanted it turned over to the state police, but it was turned over to the sheriff's department.
Right.
And I was told by the lieutenant that's just under the sheriff that was going to take it over, he said he was very irritated at both of us, Debbie and I, for calling. We only called 2 times maybe, but he said we were bothering him. You know, it was too much. And matter of fact, what he said was, no wonder the first detective didn't want to talk to you, because we were calling.
He's being bombarded with
been
calls,
bothered.
and we called
And-
twice.
Yeah, and he said, if I had Eric's file on my desk today, I don't have time to deal with it. That's when my daughter, it bothered her the way we were talked to. We called the sheriff and complained. We never heard back from the sheriff. And my daughter called the state police and said, would you take it? We've been told the state police usually have more means to do things, and they have more time. But after they took it, they said, well, actually, we can't do investigating. What we're doing, we're taking it over and seeing if all the previous investigation was done correctly, and it was not. Some of it was just not done the way they would have done it, they said.
Well,
They actually told us that when we would ask them, can you look at this in the file, certain things in the file that we knew should be there, the state police actually has told us, the one that's looking it over now has actually told us that he has been back and talked to the chief of police in Buena Vista and asked him, where is this in the file? I don't see this in the file. The family's saying this should be in the file, and he's telling him, oh, well, that's probably just in my notes. I didn't actually get it put in the file. And I'm saying, well, then we need this put in the file. And he assures me, because he's going to be retiring before long, that he will put it all in the file. He also was supposed to be talking to me as one of the spokespersons for the family. And I spoke with him for about an hour, for the first time I'd ever talked to him for about an hour. He seemed to be very friendly with me on the phone. I felt positive that maybe I could get him to go and do some things that actually need to be done on the case. And he asked me for some of the copies of television interviews and the paperwork on some stuff that we had found ourselves. And I sent him emails. I sent him several emails about 2 or 3 days later. The very next morning after I sent the emails, I was informed that he had told Eric's sister that he no longer wanted to talk to me. He did not have time to deal with that many emails or to deal with the case.
Well, they won't talk to me anymore. They haven't talked to me in, a year and a half, I don't know, because I know I'm Eric's mom and I'm more emotional. And I ask really tough, hard questions. I want to know, why haven't you done this? And I want to hear back about it.
so they stated that they didn't want to talk to you.
Right. They actually
to
told
me.
me on the phone that they did not ever want to talk to her again. They were offended by some of the things that she had asked.
Some
and
things that we
didn't
found
ever
on the
want to
internet.
talk to her again.
And these
then
were the investigators
the
that was
actual
handling
investigators,
the
right.
case.
Right, the
Right.
current investigator.
As
But
far
they
as
do talk to my daughter, and she, in all fairness, let's say this, the state police who have it now did go look for my son's body. They got cadaver dogs. That's something that we tried to get done by the original investigators in Buena Vista. And what I was told was, no one is going to give permission to search for your son's body on that property. So the 3 of us went up there, met the owners of the land, got permission right away. They said, no one ever asked us for permission. They said, you have our permission, we can write it out if you need us to. We'll give permission to the police. So the
2
state...
years later, they
Yeah,
search.
so the state police did do that. We were going to go up there, and they said we might spook the dogs, And there's an old abandoned well on that property. And the owner of the property told the police, we think there might be something with that well, you need to check it out. So we were told they took dogs down in there.
And why did the owners feel that way, that was something with the well? Did they ever say?
No, what, the well? Well, it was there from a long time ago, and it's been kind of boarded up on the floor. She stepped into it. We took a picture of her in it, and it's pretty big. It almost looks like an old storm shelter. It's big, that big. And there's another well on the property, and then I guess they use it. I guess, but
we're not really sure why the lady that was the owner suggested that. We're really not sure. She said that, and she also told us that the people, the ex-girlfriend, the old girlfriend, her husband and family that moved out of the house, had left behind a vacuum cleaner there. And when she told them that it was there, they ripped all the carpet up out of the house and put kills on the walls before they moved. And she said that she told them they had left the vacuum cleaner there. She took it home with her. The husband got very upset and said, no, we have to have that back. I want it back. And she said, well, when y'all come back from Florida, which is where they moved to, it will be over at our other property sitting on the back of that tractor over there. You can pick it up. And she thought that was kind of odd that they would be that upset over an old vacuum cleaner. So, we don't know.
And
Did they ever come and get the vacuum cleaner?
And we don't know. We asked the police to go get it, but we don't know if they did.
I have a message on my answer machine. I have one from my son. I'm just funny about that, and I save messages from all my family usually. And I have one on there, and honestly, it was hard to understand the officer. It was the sheriff's department, the lieutenant that was in charge. It was his partner. He was a very kind man, and I even told them, I said, the lieutenant was very rude. I told the sheriff, and we both reported him. But I said, but his partner was very nice. And he left me a message about that vacuum cleaner, and honestly, I never could understand it. And then we didn't deal with them anymore. So I don't know if they ever got it or not.
So in your opinion, do you feel that your son and your nephew was lured to Saginaw?
I've used that word many times because, yes, I think so. Because he was adopted and he never had any biological children. He's had 2 stepsons. And he loved, this last little stepson was so adorable, and he loved him like his own child. But he never had a biological child. So when she told me, the former girlfriend told me, she said, I told my husband, and she and her husband separated really, according to the police and what the family told us. But he knew that child belonged to Eric. This former girlfriend's husband knew that. And that's confusing to us why he would put his wife in touch, because he did not want Eric to know that was his child. But honestly, there was talk about money, that Eric had inherited money when my husband died. And I said, well, yeah, he inherited some money and he'll inherit more later, but not the amount this former girlfriend told us that she thought he had. And I feel like he was lured because it's hard to put your finger on exactly, but because this girlfriend has told so many different stories, placing him in different counties and different months and different scenarios. And so the last time she saw him, but yes, I feel like he was. Don't you?
I feel like he was because this man that was the husband had a choice. All he had to do was not put him in touch with his wife. He couldn't find her on the internet anywhere. That's why he went to him, searching for her. They started talking. They built each other up to one another, like a lot of people do. And she thought that the amount of money he would have inherited would have been more. And she, I spoke with her on the phone. I spoke with her husband on the phone when this all came about, because we were looking for Eric. We were not suspicious at that point in time of anyone. We were just trying to find him. I knew that they had owned elderly care facility in Michigan, and I knew how to find that. So I searched that. I made a phone call, and I said, I don't know if they have the right place or not, but I'm looking for these people. And I gave my nephew's name and that he had moved there and that the daughter was his. And she said, yes, honey, you have the right place. I will see to it within an hour you get a phone call. So within an hour, I got a phone call from the girl. And she told me that he had been there, but he was gone. She told me that in April that they had had an argument, that he spent 2 days in front of her house texting her and calling her and asking her to come out, and she refused, and that he left to go to California. He said, fine, if you don't want me here anymore, I'll leave to go to California. That was the story she told me on the phone.
And then she told me the same story. I talked to her 2 times, and but she didn't tell the police that story. To this day, she's never told the police that story. The only way she came up with the story that she gave to the police was that I had talked to the motel manager and said, when did my son check out? Talked to him several times, but I was asking different questions. And he said, oh, Miss Franks, your son didn't check himself out. And he knew the former girlfriend by her first name. He said she would come to see Eric every day or two and stay for a couple of hours, and that he knew her car, he knew what kind of vehicle she drove. And he said, your son was not with her. He said, Eric came in on March 14th, paid a week's rent. And he said he stayed about 2 nights, and then no one stayed at night. But his girlfriend, former girlfriend, I think they had renewed a relationship, but she was coming in the daytime. And then on the 20th and the 21st, she came alone and removed his things from his room. And he said, the motel owner said, I went in and asked her, where's Eric? And she said, oh, he got a job. He won't be back to your motel.
And this was his daughter's
Mother. Yes. And so I called my son-in-law, actually. I told my son-in-law, he got in touch with the police in Buena Vista and said, we just found out Eric didn't check himself out. This former girlfriend did. She turned the key in and collected a deposit for the key. And so when they told the police that, they took it seriously, because honestly, up until then, they kept saying, you know, a grown man can go missing if he wants to. And we said, but he wouldn't do that. He's always in touch with his family. He lived by his family, and he wouldn't do that. They said, well, but he's a grown man. But at that point, they took it seriously. The only way we actually could get them to take a missing report, even in Ohio, but really was to say, sometimes he got depressed, because they kept saying, he's a grown man, he can disappear if he wants to. And they said, well, okay, we can do a welfare check if you tell us that he could be depressed. And I said, well, we all get depressed sometimes. He's never been diagnosed with depression. And they said, okay, then we're going to put that down. If we find him, we'll stop and do a welfare check and tell him to call his mom.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Talk with Tamara, Missing Person segment. I've been talking with Joanne Franks, the mother of Eric Lee Franks. He's been missing since March 21st of 2011, am I right? And she has her sister here with her, Debra.
Tuberville.
Tuberville, okay. I get kind of tired when I say that.
I do too.
Okay. In the last segment, when we left off, you guys were telling me about Eric's daughter. Was there ever any proof that the little girl was his?
No DNA was ever done. I tried to get him to, and his wife had tried to get him to, and he just told me, Mom, she's a female me. He said, I don't need DNA. And he was sending me pictures of her as a baby. Some of those look like his baby pictures. He was sending me pictures of her current pictures. At the time she was 15, turned 16, I think. She'll be 19 in next month. So I agree she looked a lot like him. And things that he told me, I believe that's his child. And I might say this.
There was never any DNA test.
There was never any DNA done, but the child's mother and father, not the biological father, but the one that raised her is his child, told the police that they had told her name is Emily, and they had told her, Eric is your biological father, I believe in November 2010. So it's in the police records that the mother and the father that raised her said that Eric is her father and that they had told her that Eric was her father. And Eric said they spent time together.
Who was the last person to see your son alive?
Emily's mother, who is Kendra Carnes. Actually, she goes by her husband's name is Carnes, but I think she may go by both, but usually.
Okay, and how are you sure about that?
Well, she told me personally that when I talked to her 2 times and to try to find out what had happened to Eric, and she said, well, she said in April, he sat out in front of my house for 2 days, texting and calling, and they had had an argument, she said, in front of their daughter, and that he wanted to make up. And she said, I wouldn't make up with him. And I was worried about him, of course, and she said, I think he went to California. And I said, well, he wasn't a wealthy man, even though I think she thought he was. And I said, well, did he befriend anyone that might help him? Because I found out later that he had his rent paid up on his motel room. Why would he leave, you know? And she said, I don't know anybody he befriended while he was here. But later, when the story got changed to that he disappeared in March from the motel, then she tells the police, oh, he's friends with the housekeeper and the motel owner, but she didn't tell me that.
Okay.
So I know that the mother, the former girlfriend, Kendra Birmingham, said that's Eric's child. She even told me, she said the way Eric found out it was his daughter was that I posted their birth dates. And she said, I told my husband, Eric's a smart man. He's figured it out. That's his daughter. And so, yeah, I believe that's his daughter. There just wasn't ever any DNA.
Okay. When he went back to Saginaw, do you think that there was a relationship, even though the young lady was married, do you think that there was some sort of relationship rekindled?
Yes, everything indicates it was on Facebook with Eric's friends. And as Deborah can tell you, even her husband said so. And he told the police, said a lot of derogatory things about his wife and her relationship with people, and said that this is in the police report, she was seeing Eric. That's the way he worded it. But yes, I do believe it.
So has her husband the young lady's husband, been cooperative with, has he been helpful in anything?
I've never talked to him. Deborah talked to him twice, and the police interviewed him, I think, twice. And he did talk with them, but I don't know if I'd call it cooperative. I don't know, really, I can't say on that because I never talked to him.
He was like, he said some very derogatory things about his wife to me on the phone. He was actually indicating to me that he was hiding from her in the house while he was talking to me. He had to let me go because of her banging on the door. And then once she left, he called me back. He said that, which backed up some of what Eric had said. Eric had said that he was afraid that he was too late getting there, that Kendra was already seeing someone else. And he was afraid that it was too late for them to be able to work things out for them, but that he was going there anyway for his daughter. And that nothing would keep him from being there with his daughter. So the husband told me that she had had many boyfriends, and that he knew that she was seeing Eric and that they were having a relationship. So I believe they were, just based on what I was told, not hearsay, what I was actually told. I believe they were. That and based on what I've seen on conversations between the two of them on Facebook.
And the police did say that when they questioned Kendra and her husband, that I think John's the one that her husband told the police that it's like they were separated but living in the same house for the children. And that, like I said, it didn't have anything complimentary to say, and the police just told me that's a strange relationship going on in that house. That's what they said to me.
Okay.
So yes, I think so. Eric had posted that he was fixing up a house, and that I mentioned about the rural area with little reception. Well, when my sisters and I went up there, we found the house that we think is the house that he was talking about. Had a new satellite dish just installed about the time he was talking about. And
It was rural area.
yeah, and Eric's not here to say, Mom, this is exactly the way it happened, but we're putting this together by what we were told by Eric, by things he posted, things his friends knew that he told them, one friend in particular that was very, very close to him, and what was said to the police.
He also
And he was building this home after he checked out of the hotel.
he was
He
talking
was living
about
in?
doing this
Yes,
while
it was a rental house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was talking about doing this there at the end while he was still in the motel.
Yeah.
Talking about getting the house, and this was their plans. He was supposedly was out helping paint the house to get it ready for them to move in. Other things that indicate that they were having a relationship were comments that he made, such as, "We're getting a house to move in together. You know, for my family, starting my family, the life I've always dreamed of living." He talked about this Kendra as being the love of his life, the one that got away, all of this. He talked about living there for a short time until the daughter graduated high school. And then he vowed to get his girls, he called them his girls, out of this frigid cold weather and away from this place. They have plans to possibly move to Texas, is what he was talking about. So all indications say that, but obviously you'd have to ask him, and we can't find him to do that. So,
But the things that were posted and things that he said to me on the phone.
So it was allegedly.
right,
Right.
yeah, and even to the husband's admittance that it was, but that's still, you know.
Yeah, that's what,
Someone who also told me that he told her, go out there and get rid of him, or I'll go out and make sure he leaves. You know, because he said, and he told me in April also. So that was the first story. I actually even talked to the daughter on Facebook briefly. I found her on Facebook before I ever talked to any of them. Sent her a message back and forth. We had just a very few words back and forth. I asked her, you know, was that her mom's name? Was that her dad's name? Did she know who Eric was? And she said, I think I know somebody by that name. And this supposedly was months after they had already told her, this is your father.
and
And then I got cut off and blocked. I couldn't talk to her anymore. So that led me to call the elderly care facility and try to find where Kendra was. And that's how we found it out.
if we had one story to go on, one story that was told, the motel owner has been consistent with his story. To the police, to the family, to the news. Always the same story with details. But Eric's former girlfriend, the last person to see him, Kendra, has placed him in, as the last time she saw him, in front of her house in Buena Vista in April, with detailed things that were going on. That's what she told me personally and my sister. Then she told the Buena Vista police it was in March at the motel, with details even saying, the police said, she said, I got the things out from under the bathroom sink, put them in a sack. I mean, it was details. Then she told the police the last she thought she heard from, she did get an email from him in May. She told me, I think I heard from him the other day, the neighbors think they might have seen his car. Well, we went and talked to the neighbor that she was talking about. They said, we wouldn't have known his car. We never met him. We didn't even live here till not long ago. It's a dead-end street. We don't know. Then she said to his friend in Arizona that he was with her in June. So we got so many stories that that's made it so difficult. It's hindered the case because you can't have one story to go on and say, okay, we'll take that. That's what everybody says happened, and we're going there. You know?
Okay, and the motel owner, the hotel owner, what exactly did he say? Did we talk about what he said?
He said, I think we did a little. Eric, he said Eric worked for him some doing odd jobs. Was looking for a job, and so he was friends with him. And he said Eric came in on March 14th, paid his rent for a week. Came back. He said about 2 days he spent the night there. And he said, but he did never come back at all. He said, I looked in his room. His things were in there. And he said then on the 20th and the 21st. That Kendra came and removed all of his things. And he said, I stepped into the room where she was, and I said, where's Eric? He said, he was not there. He said, it's a small motel. He said, I watched my property closely. He was not there. And he said, I asked her, where is he? And she said that he had gotten a house or an apartment, I think is the way she put it, and he won't be back.
Okay.
She actually turned
So-
the key in and collected the key deposit.
Yeah, so we don't really
And he
know.
was
if he-
never seen again.
No,
never
by the
seen
hotel.
no.
Him or his car. His car has vanished as well.
Yeah.
Cannot be found, not a trace of it.
The only thing the police said they knew, they told me this, this former girlfriend had his phone because she made a personal call to her own dentist, and they asked her about it, and she said, well, maybe Eric overheard me talking about my dentist. My son had his own dentist, prepaid, and was supposed to go in July. So it was a prepaid thing. He didn't need to see somebody else's dentist, and knew he could also see them in Michigan. Didn't have to go back to Ohio. They said his phone never left Saginaw.
He had constant phone calls on his cell phone that he had with Kendra up until the checking out of the motel. And then all the phone calls stopped.
For about 3 weeks.
About 3
something.
weeks. No phone calls were made on that phone at all. And then all of a sudden the phone calls picked back up to phone calls to her dentist, to salvage yards, and 2 or 3 other phone calls. And then they stopped again, and nothing else was done on that phone, but that phone had phone service all the way up till July, paid for by someone else. He didn't even have to pay for it. So he had access to a phone, but wasn't using it. So that's just a little odd. And if we knew a month, if we could pick one of those stories, if we could just pinpoint one of those stories to be the truth as the last time he was seen, then we could have something to go on as to where to go from there. You know, what is actually the truth? It can't be 5 different things. There is only one truth. So that's what we want. We want that one truth.
And you said you feel that the young lady felt that he was going to get more money.
Yes.
She was
From
very
your husband's
angry.
death.
She told me that. Now, she said he told her. Well, sure, he inherited something, but she gave, I won't even say how much, it was extravagant. And she thought he had inherited that and was going to leave it to their daughter. She told me that. She told my sister that. And her husband told my sister that.
And they had some financial issues, that family did, at the time that she was talking with Eric on the phone to get him there. Someone had passed away in the elderly care place in a vehicle outside, and we got documents showing that it was settled out of court, and there was a large sum of money that had to be paid to that
Civil
person's
lawsuit.
family, a civil lawsuit.
And you said you spoke with her.
I did. I did. And, you know, she just was very angry when I talked to her. I cannot believe that he didn't inherit any of that money. I cannot believe that all of these things were not true, as though she was still angry about it. But I'm not accusing her of doing anything at all. I just would like for her to tell the one story as to what month and when it was. Was it at the motel? Was it in front of her house in April? Were they living in another place?
June?
In June? In June, when she told the friend, she said, "Oh, he's with me. He's with me. Just don't have phone service. I'll tell him to get in touch with you." So he was there with her in June. So, and this is an email too that she did this. She sent this in an email to this person. So
Because obviously we don't know what happened.
So the months consistently changed
Yes.
the last
Right.
time she saw him.
Right.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Real Talk with Tamara, Missing Persons segment. I've been speaking with Joanne Franks, mother of Eric Franks. He's been missing since 2011, and she has her sister Debra here with us. Have you ever met your granddaughter?
No, I haven't. I've seen a lot of pictures of her, and I'm hoping this summer to get to meet her. We understand on the internet she has cancer, and if my son was alive, he would be there for her. So I would like to go meet her, and I've seen her pictures. I think she looks just like him, and yeah, I would like to meet her.
Okay. Do you feel that your son is still out there somewhere living his life?
No. If you knew my son, you'd say no way. I mean, I know that until they find a body, there's always going to be that what if. But he always kept in touch with his family, lived by his family, and even when he wasn't living by us, we knew where he was living, and he kept in touch. No, I personally, I think he died probably in April, just by one of the stories that I was told.
I think that the main reason that I can't believe that he's just out there somewhere living his life, he was very close with his family, with his mom, but he was very vocal. If he had an opinion, he let you know he had an opinion. He was always on Facebook, constantly talking to his friends, many friends on Facebook. When there wasn't anybody on Facebook to talk to, he had a Twitter account. He was on his Twitter account. When there was nobody there to talk to, he had sites that he got on for politics and voicing his opinion, just from one spectrum to the other on anything that was out there that he could voice his opinion on the internet. He wasn't a quiet person that would go without getting in touch with anybody. Like I said, daily basis on Facebook with all of his friends. Constant contact with his mom. His mom was his lifeline. That was, since his dad passed away, I mean, even before then, just constant contact with his mom. He would not go without contacting her.
Without contacting
And
his
he
mom.
knew
No, and he
that
had some really close friends. He kept
really close friends
talked
too.
to him on the phone even more than he did to me because his buddies. You know.
But it had been suggested to us that maybe he was devastated over some things that happened in Michigan and he just went off to be by himself. There was nothing that could happen in his life that he knew his mom would turn his back on for. Nothing. Nothing that had happened, nothing he needed. He knew that. So to say that he just, was too overwhelmed and went off somewhere, it's not possible.
And that just wasn't
He wouldn't
there.
have done
He
that. That
could-
wasn't him.
He could bounce back from things. Yeah.
In your heart, what do you feel has happened? In your heart.
In my heart, I think the relationship that he got into when he went to Saginaw, personally, in my heart, I think it led to somebody killing him. I'm obviously not accusing anyone. I don't know all the facts. If my son was here if only he was here to say what all went on. But just based on everything I've been told, everything that I have learned, since he went missing, that's what I think.
Now, all these different ideas that we have.
Some things we know as facts is what my son told me, what he told his friends. We know from the former girlfriend and her husband what they told the police, what they told us.
Those documents we have.
Those we know, and documents. But obviously, with that many stories being told, and Eric's not here to say, Mom, it's that one, whatever, we've had 3 years to think about it. We've done a lot of our own legwork, my sisters and I, and I personally think somebody killed him in April in Saginaw.
In Saginaw. Okay. What do you, in closing, I want to know, what do you guys think it's going to take to solve this case?
Well, for one thing, somebody needs to speak up, tell the truth, and it's been 3 years that hasn't happened. All these stories still stand as they are. So I've pretty well been told that until they find a body, or even his car, or somebody confesses to something, I don't know how it's going to be solved. But we're doing our best to try to get it solved.
We need the one true story as to the last time he was seen. We need for the truth to be told. We need for the police to treat this as an active local case and not just a case of a man who came there to stay for 5 months in a motel. We need for this to be taken seriously, and all the things that could have been done by the first investigating police department, the second investigating police department, and the third. We need the people that are investigating now to go back and do those things that should have been done to begin with.
And be consistent.
And be consistent.
Yes, because I was told that by the first investigating officer, Ms. Franks, I need a week to get to Eric's case, and I can't find a week. He was doing a murder trial, and he said that every time he tried to get to my son's case, a local case came up. So they weren't looking at it as a local case. They need to take it more seriously as a local case and do some more research investigating and interrogating.
Well, I want to thank you all for traveling all the way to Memphis to be here on my show.
Thank you. Thank
Good
you.
luck to finding out what happened with Eric. I can certainly say, you know, I hope that he's still out there, but I know you guys
Yeah.
know him better than anyone. So my heart goes out to you, and I hope that you find answers soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk with Tamara. Until next time, God bless us all. Hi, my name is Tamara, host of Real Talk with Tamara, owner of Tamara's Productions Network. I'm proud to say that my network is expanding. We're producing reality shows, TV shows, and just like I produce my own TV talk show, Real Talk with Tamara, and record it, I'm also doing the same with other TV talk shows. So, if you have a TV idea, if you have an idea and you want it on TV, give me a call. We have a gang of producers over here that would love to help you to get your message out. If you're looking for a studio to record your shows in, look no further. We have a big new studio that we would love to have you at. If you have a business and you would like to advertise on Real Talk with Tamara or on Tamara's Productions Network, give me a call. If you need a commercial, don't worry about that. I have a team of experts that can produce you a professional commercial for your business. As I said, be on the lookout for Tamara's Productions Network. We're on the rise.